Okay, so I changed my needles and I put my blue thread in. So also, you might like to have an overhead lamp. It makes a big difference sometimes when you're quilting, especially in the evening. I like to have my overhead lamp so that I can see a little bit better. But I have my thread knotted at the bottom. I just put a single knot in this because it's heavier thread, so I only need a single knot. So I'm going to try to show you on the video. Hope you can see it. But we're going to stitch in the ditch. I'm going to take out my pin since I have it here in the frame. Makes it easier to work. Take your pins out once you have your little frame in, and then I want to show you, I'm going to start here on the end, and what you're going to do is go between the fabrics. You're not going to go the whole way through when you start. You're going to go between the fabrics and put your needle through where you want to come out. Like I want to come out right here in the ditch, which is the seam line. Okay, so I have it popped through. You can hear it snap when it goes through the fabric. You pull it and then you pull the knot through till you hear that little snap. And then you're going to take it back down through all 3 layers and bring it back up the same place that you started. And then what you're going to do is put it down through the fabric, and you want to take as small of a bite of fabric as possible. And you have your finger, you want to get all 3 layers in. Sometimes you can hear it pulling. If you don't get all 3 layers, you can hear like a little snap. But you want to just use your rocker motion. You have your finger on your needle and you're putting it down through the fabric and back up. Okay, see the needle coming up? Okay, so now this part of the fabric where your ditch is has all your seam allowance underneath. So sometimes that's hard to pull your needle through. So I use my little green needle grabber and pull it through. So it makes it a lot easier to pull through. So I don't know if you can see, but when you're stitching in a ditch, the seam is hidden a little bit, which is kind of what you're going for, but you also want that little pucker. So what you're trying to do is stitch on the side of the fabric that you see that the seam allowance has been pushed to. Remember, we ironed our seam allowance to the darker side of the fabric. So we want to try to stitch on the other side where the seam allowance isn't, so that you don't have so much material to put your needle through. But sometimes the fabric does get pushed, and so you still could be stitching through some of the seam allowance fabric. So this one here, the seam allowance feels like it's like on, in the middle. It's not on one side or the other, because I feel like it's a little bit tougher to stitch through this one. So I'm only taking a couple stitches here at a time because I can't seem to get more than that. It's a little bit tough. So you're just gonna take your rocking motion and push your needle through as little bit of a fabric as you possibly can, and then pull your needle through. And I like to just go the whole way across till you get to the end, and then I'll tie my thread off. But when you get to the corners here, it's a little bit tough too. So sometimes I'll just push it down through and back up because it's harder to stitch through with a rocker motion. And then once you get through the corner, you can go back to your rocking. And I still feel the seam allowance right there. But you can see where it's showing, you know, a little pucker. That's what you want. You want your quilt to show that little pucker that it's gathering and making the quilt stand out. The blocks are going to stand out better once you stitch the whole way around it and you stitch in the ditch. So sometimes I could take 5 or 6 stitches at a time, but right here, when I'm stitching in the ditch, I can't seem to take that many stitches. Also, when you're using regular quilting thread, not the bold, it does seem to be a little easier to stitch with. So I would recommend you start out with regular quilting thread, not the bold, because the regular quilting thread is a little bit easier to stitch with. If you don't, it could make it a little bit difficult for you to stitch with, that's all, because it's thicker. So what I'm doing here is I'm going through the corner again, and then now that I got past the corner where you have the extra fabric sticking up, I'm going to do the rocker motion again. But when I do the designs, you don't have that issue, you know, because you're away from all the seam allowance, so you don't have to worry about the extra material in your quilt. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there and just leave this hang, and I'm going to get another piece of thread, and I'm going to show you how I stitch the design. So I'm going to thread my needle, and I'm going to tie a knot in it. You just wrap it around and pull it through and tie one little knot. And so you have your knot hanging down lower than your other piece. There's your other piece hanging. So you have more on this side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out here, and I'm going to put it through the middle of the 3 layers of fabric. So you have your 3 layers, and when you put your needle through your needle is going to go through the middle. You're not going to go through all 3 fabrics when you start out. So what you're going to have it in the middle. You can feel it on the bottom. So you have your other hand on the bottom, so you can feel that it's not going through. Okay, now here's my knot, and when you pull it through, you just tug it gently and hear that pop. And so now it's in the center of your fabric. And then what I do is, some people don't anchor it, but I do anchor it, because if I don't, sometimes I feel like it's pulling too much on the fabric. So I put it down through the same spot, and I just put one knot in there and I anchor it down. Then I go right over top of that same spot, and then I start doing my rocker motion stitch and push it through. Now this is a little easier to pull through. Well, maybe. This needle is a little thicker than what I like to use, but for this thread, the eye was a little bit bigger, so I just got this needle out. But I do like to use a little bit thinner needle, and they are easier to pull through the fabric instead of using my little green puller. But this is what it looks like when you're stitching after you get your stitch done. I can get like 4, 5, 6 stitches sometimes in one shot before I have to pull it through the fabric. So it's whatever you're used to. You get better as you go along, so don't worry if you're not. If you only can get 1 or 2 stitches at a time when you first start out, that's fine. You'll learn. I mean, it takes practice, so. And then you just pull it, and then it makes the nice little ripply design that you get. So then when you tie your fabric off, tie your thread off, I'm sorry, I just wanted to take this down a little bit more and show you the design. I want to show you how to tie your thread off though. But so you take it, keep going around your design, and just follow the pattern. See the nice little design in your heart. Just keep wanting to, you can turn your hoop as you go so you don't have to move your hand. That's what I like about the hoop. You turn it the way you want to so you can follow the design. But if you, and if you make a mistake and your stitch is a little bit bigger than you want, you can always take your needle and just pull those stitches out and do it again. So before you go and tie it off, you want to correct your stitches, just take it and slip it underneath the stitch and pull it out, and then you can do it again. So, but when you tie your needle off, tie your thread off, sorry, I keep saying needle, I'm tired today. You just want to, what I do is take it down and bring it back up in the same spot. Try to find the same hole that you went down in, and down again, and I bring it back up. There's a couple ways of doing this, but this is the way Grandma always taught me. And then I take my needle and put it through the fabric again, through the middle layers, and just take it through like that, and pull it through, and then I cut it off like so, and you don't even know where you stopped. See, it's just a hidden little knot that you put in your stitch, so it just looks like the rest of the thread. You can't even tell where you stopped. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm at 13 minutes. If you have any questions, you can always email me or write them in the comments, and I'll try to explain things more. But just do your best and have fun doing it, and keep learning as you go. Enjoy.